This is just a great big thank you to President Donald J.Trump and his family and everybody serving in the United States military. My heart goes out to you. I give you all my love and all my light. Just a short thing. You could have seen this happening because I got sort of a notice that Donald signed an executive order which essentially says, you know what, since the Insurrection Act has been enacted, right, and you're doing business with China, okay, then under the Insurrection Act, that essentially is giving aid and comfort to the enemy. Guess what happens? That's punishable by a firing squad, okay? So the executive order, what is it, 13959, I believe it is, you can look it up, that if you're a corporation or you're doing business with China, man, okay, so this means the collapse of the Chinese market. Okay, so for me, this is naturally going to go all the way back to, because, you know, when you got to figure out on a timeline how you got to where you got and where you're going in the future, see? So if you have an enormous amount of love and empathy and compassion for everything that is living in spirit, then you're moving at a pretty rapid rate, which means, hey, you know your future timeline. See, so it's pretty easy when you're mapping the terrain of all the units of consciousness that are running slower speeds than you are. You can use a mathematical function in time-vectored space to sort of see what the future is going to look like, and you can see it. So I was seeing these things as a child. And what you began to realize, particularly for me in 1972, if you remember Richard Nixon and Henry Kissinger, opened the door to China. So it was obvious then what was going to happen. You know, we're talking about putting America up for sale and exporting the wealth, which represents energy, because we're living batteries. Okay? So, you know, everything that they did back then that we became aware of, you know, bit by bit, going off the gold standard, right? Everything they did when the collapse in 1929, the First Depression, right? Because both my parents lived through them. So I have history through them, to learn through them what they experienced in their lifetimes. Put it all together as essentially data processing, and you begin to realize how the energy is being harvested, in which we're putting an end to. Okay? It's an energy management system, which essentially puts everybody into a slave mode, okay, rather than a free energy mode. Okay, because the universe is always giving you free energy, because that's what I do. Okay, and when you're in a state of peace and a state of love, then you already know that as a living battery, you already got everything that you need. That's a pathway. You begin to realize when you know that, and you are that in spirit, you're going fast to the cosmos. You're losing an enormous amount of density. You're escaping a black hole. I'm out of here. I'm living in the light. Right? Now your conscious creative imagination is now pulsing through the cosmos at a very high rate of speed. So imagine you're manifesting and experiencing it as you're doing it, because you love your universe so much. Because that universe is in your mind. Remember all the stories? So they sold us out back then. That's why I remember we used to make everything. Remember post-World War II? We were basically keeping the standard of living up for most everything that was destroyed in World War II as a result of the Axis powers. Same group, Vatican, Rothschild. You know, it's essentially three places. The Vatican, Crown, the City of London, Rothschild. You know, when you drive through there, there's two reptile figurines there, so they pretty much let you know who's running the financial system, okay? Reptiles, which means they got no love for you, okay? Which means us, which means humanity. And then, of course, they had Washington, D.C., which is a Vatican City state, which was military. So that's simple to put together. So you begin to realize that you're in enemy-held territory, okay? So you got to fight your way out of this. So we're surrounded. Remember Curie? Currie? 101st Airborne, Screaming Eagles, okay, Bastogne, Battle of the Bulge, see? So, you know, Americans have always stood for the First Amendment. We are free spirit. We are allowed to express ourselves freely in no fear. So we're love-based, and that's what we do. I love you all.